to Gnana Deeksha Concept-Based Digital Learning. I am Dr. Jyotipriya, lecturer in English, TSWRDC Yadagiri. In today's world of internet connectivity and mobile network, we often forget to read books. It is maybe very easier for us to buy books from online and read them. But the charm of buying a book and then reading and owning a hard copy of it, it is very, very important and may never lose its charm. I personally buy books and review them on a personal level. Today, I would like to begin this session with my topic on writing a book review. After this session, you will learn the importance of reading a book. Second, you will learn how to choose a book to review. And finally, you will learn how to write a good book review. But first, let me explain why is reading important. Well, there are several advantages to reading. The first advantage is reading is a cognitive process that develops our understanding and decodes information through language learning. Second advantage is reading enables the other person to understand the world better. Finally, but not the least, reading enhances a person's vocabulary and develops strength and structure in communication. In olden days, people used to read a lot of spiritual books besides other kinds of books. Even in the past, knowledge was transmitted from oral form to the written form, and people started to write down things from what they have seen or what they have heard. Even today, we can find a grandfather or grandmother in our home who reads a newspaper or article. Why does this happen? This is because one is either motivated to read or one is has the potential to broaden their perspectives. Now, this is the importance of reading. Now, when I talk about reading, I don't just mean reading of textbooks. Because according to a survey in India, it has been said that most Indians read textbooks that are of scientific nature. Hence, it is important to develop reading for general audience or for pleasure reading. The next topic I would like to come to is the parts of a book. Now, when you go to a store to buy a book or when you want to choose a book for review, what are some of the fundamental or physical aspects of a book that you will look for to include in your review writing? To begin with, any book consists of a front cover. A front cover consists of the title of the book, the name of the author, and any illustration if there is, like you can see in the slide. And there is a back cover where there is information about the blurb. Blurb is a summary note of the story in the book. And then you find a quotation by a publisher or a journal who talks about the merits of the book. And then finally you will find the barcode and the price at the end corner of the book. So if you want to choose a book for reading, you have to look at the blurb. And if you like the story, you go ahead and purchase the book. The next aspect of writing a review is the components of a book. Components of the book means that there are certain aspects when you are reading a book. For example, when you read a book, you come across two aspects. One is content and one is form. Content can be further subdivided into themes and subject. Now, examples of themes include abstract ideas such as freedom, slavery, friendship, etc. Whereas, subject includes aspects such as what is the theme of the book? What does the book talk about? In other words, Subject is a concrete manifestation of ideas. And on the other end, form is any category of writing that a writer uses to deliver the content. That is, it can be language, the style of writing, the literary techniques, and metaphors, similes, and so on. I come to the next topic, which is choosing a genre for writing your review. Now, you have gone to the shop, you know the physical aspects of it. Now, you have to decide which genre you want to read the book, whether you are interested in fiction or non-fiction. Let me explain the difference between fiction and non-fiction to you. Fictional works include works that are imaginary or unreal. Examples are adventure, buildings Roman, comedy, crime, detective, epic, fantasy, fable, science, tragedy, western, and so on. On the other hand, non-fiction works include works that are informative or factual. Examples are treatises, autobiography, biography, testimonials, letters, journals, and even essays. An example of a fictional work would include, say, J.K. Rowling's Harry Potter series, while on the other hand, non-fiction would include Mohandas Karamchand Gandhi's autobiography, My Experiments with Truth. Now, I would like to go to my next topic, which is literary devices. Now, when you read a book, in addition to the components of a book, and as well as the genre in which you are reading, you will also come across certain things by which you need to learn the hidden meanings of the words and phrases that are used in the book. Now, these are called as literary devices. You may not find them directly in the book, but you need to infer. So, the first literary device that we will be looking at is metaphor. What is a metaphor? Metaphor is an expression that describes a person or object that refers to another person or an object that has similar characteristics. For example, the mind is an ocean, or the city is a jungle. The second literary device is simile. Simile is a figure of speech that represents an idea and which is produced by as or like. For example, I'm as hungry as a lion, or her cheeks are as red as roses. The third literary device is imagery. Imagery is a word or a phrase which is found in a book, film, or any literary work which points to certain images in the work. For example, you can say that there are certain images of death in this particular novel. The fourth literary device that I would like to talk about is symbolism. Symbolism is the use of symbols in literature, film, music, and any work of art for that matter. An example sentence would include, there are symbols of religious hierarchism in this particular century or in this particular period. The fifth literary device that I would like to talk about is parody. Parody is any writing, music, art, literature which copies an original work of a famous person or any situation so that the original is so distinct and noticeable in such a way that it is humorous. There are several examples of parody. Finally, we come to the last literary device, which is allusion. Allusion is a figure of speech which alludes to something. That is, you refer to a particular person or an object. For example, this novel is full of allusions to Hitchcock. That means it alludes to or refers to this work, this writer, Hitchcock. The next section, I would like to begin with what the purpose of this review is all about. That is, writing a book review. But what is a book review? A book review is a balanced assessment of a book. It offers descriptions of evaluation and the strengths and weaknesses of a particular book. But it should not be confused with book reports. Book reports are summaries or short descriptions of the content of the book. That is, its theme, plot, characters, and so on. While on the other hand, book reviews are much larger and they evaluate a work's strength and weaknesses and recommends whether you have to read it or not. Let us come to the next topic. What does a book review provide? What does a book review provide? You have to start writing a book review. So what information will you give if you are writing a book review? So the first thing that a book review provides is the basic information about the book. That is, what is the name of the author, the title of the book, the publisher, what is the price of the book, what is the bulk of the book, all these aspects, the basic aspects. The second thing that a book review provides is the preview of the book. What is the subject of the book? You should know when you're reading, you should know what is the subject of the book, what is the theme, how does it work, how does it feel. The third aspect is reviewer's response. Did the reviewer enjoy reading the book and then writing the review? And finally, the review should end with the recommendations of the reviewer. Does he recommend the book to the readers? Is it worth spending time and money on the book? Yes or no? All these questions are answered in a review. The next aspect that I would be coming to is the structure of writing a book review. See, there is no particular structure for writing a book review, but there is a pattern for it. What is the pattern? There are 5 categories in which we can write the whole review. The first thing that we can start is with a headline or a title. Of course, every book review should start with a title or a headline. The second step is opening statement. What do you say in the opening statement? Opening statement reveals the lead paragraph. How you feel about the book. How did you react to the book when you first read it? This is the opening statement. The third step is discussion. This is where you can introduce the synopsis of the story or the plot of the story without revealing too much about the climax. The fourth step is details of the plot. Here you can introduce characters, the themes, the subject, what does it deal with? And finally, you can give an assessment and conclusion about the whole process of reading this particular book. Do you recommend this to your readers? Have you enjoyed it? Is it worth spending the time? All this will be included. In this next segment, I will give you an example of a sample review by Erin Malasco Miller, who has written a review on The Kite Runner by Khaled Hussain. So this is the title of the book, The Kite Runner, a book review. So what is the opening statement about this book review? How does he start? The Kite Runner by Khaled Hussain is one of the best books that I have ever read in years. It offers a description of of two characters which are popular and which touched my heart. This tells a fascinating story about Amir and Hassan, who try to fit in a society that is opposed to them. I couldn't find myself putting the book down and reading it. It was hard for me to put down the book. This is the opening paragraph. This is where the readers will be attracted to what you say and they will decide what the book is about. The second topic or second paragraph is the synopsis of the book. So what will you say about the synopsis? Now, this reviewer has started the review by saying The Kite Runner by Khaled Hosseini is one of the best books that I have read. It is a story of two boys in Afghanistan and Afghan immigrants in America. This is a story that is set in a culture that is becoming of increasing interest to Americans since the September 2001 attacks. This gives people an opportunity to learn about the Afghanistan culture and history. This also paves the reader's attention to learn about values of friendship, loyalty, cruelty, and also of increasing human relationships. This is a story that can be set in any culture because it deals with themes that are universal in nature. Now, in the next paragraph, we come to the discussion part wherein we can introduce characters in the story. So we can say, The Kite Runner by Khaled Hosseini talks about two boys who are friends and who are living in a particular society that is influenced by the Taliban regime. It basically talks about Amir's relationship with Hassan, his relationship with his father, and it also talks about his childhood friendship with Hassan and his father. This is a story of how the friendship develops between these two boys during the Taliban regime. When you introduce characters such as these, it becomes essential to the plot of the story. This gives a sneak peek into the book and gives the idea to the readers that there are such stories of such a nature that can touch our hearts. And finally, we can conclude the review by saying that I highly recommend this book for those book clubs. And for those who are not part of any reading group, I recommend to read it. Because this is a book that you cannot put down. And you are wanting to talk about it even after you finish it. Now, this is the way you need to write the review. Now, it is very important for us to understand why is a book review important. The first thing or the first reason why a book review is important is it is an unbiased and a sincere opinion of the reviewer. Second point, a book review develops critical thinking and discipline and provides a structured argument in the piece of work that you are writing. The third advantage is it informs the reader even as it influences whether to read the book or not. And finally, a book review develops a culture of reading and enhances love for books. For to write something, we also need to read. I would also like to discuss some do's and don'ts for reading. So let me first begin with some do's. So post writing a review, go back to the review and check if you want to say the same things the same way it has been said. If not, if there are any errors, do accordingly. The second do is check if there are any spelling errors. Check the accuracy of information, the authenticity of information. If there is a logical argument, check the tone, check the balance. The third do is that you need to have a balanced opinion about the book. Do not try to use extreme language, or in other words, try to be little neutral. Now, about don'ts. Do not review the book without reading it. Do not try to be wiser than the author. Do not have any extreme opinions or make controversial statements. Then, finally, but not the least, do not try to have a side or try to have a biased opinion about a particular statement that you are writing. And when you review a book, oftentimes many students ask me this question that, ma'am, when we are reviewing, we are unable to use the right language that is necessary to write a review. So what kind of language that you need to use in a review? Use terms that are accurate to the work of a particular author that you are talking about. For example, novella. What is a novella? A novella is neither a novel nor a short story. You must remember that. And then, what is denouement? Denouement means the climax of a particular story. So when you use these technical words or when you use these literary terms, it makes it more attractive. But at the same time, don't use words that are called as jargon. Don't use complicated sentences. Don't use complex words, because that will only confuse the readers. Right? You don't have to, the reader should not go searching for a dictionary or a thesaurus. So make it very simple, make it attractive and reasonable argument. Balance your review with appropriate diction. What is diction? Diction is the use of words in a particular sentence or in a particular story. Try to be a little creative. You can even quote from the book that you are reviewing. For example, you are reviewing a novel, say Austerlitz by W.G. Sebald. Now, this is a 20th century book. So, when you are talking about this particular book, you can take lines directly from the book, and this you can justify your argument by saying that this author has used so and so literary device or literary technique which is currently relevant to this society, and it is an appreciation of art. Book review is an essential part of writing these days, but you have to remember through which source you are communicating this matter. So whether it is print media or the electronic media. So you have to keep in mind the language when you are writing a book review. So if it is for newspaper, the language is different. And if it is for electronic media, the language is completely different. Perhaps electronic media can be a little bit more informal, whereas a print media is a bit more formal. So these are the most important aspects when you are writing a book review. Always look at the language and structure that the author has used in his or her book, because this can give an additional bonus or a value addition to what you are writing. Every writer is different from every other writer. So maybe at the end of the review, you can compare a particular author's works with similar such works, so that you can say or you can differentiate between what difference has it made between then and now. What are the themes that the author has dealt in this book that he has not dealt with in the other or earlier works. This can be a part of your conclusion. Also, do not focus too much upon the biography or the career aspect of a particular writer. Focus on his works. You can include what kind of work or what kind of themes that a particular author writes about. So when you talk about this particular author, you can connect it to the review that you are writing, use those symbols, use those imagery that you are talking about, and then you can embellish your writing. So always keep in mind that you need to balance writing as well as content. Both are essential to any piece of writing. It should be effective, it should be informative, as well as it should attract the readers. The main purpose of a review is that you need to make or inspire the readers to read your review. This is an important aspect or important part of any review that you write. So writing is a process of forming artistic cultural structures in our both neurologically and even psychologically. It helps us to persuade the readers about our opinions. It tells the readers what we think, how we think, and why we think the way we think. Therefore, a book review should always keep in mind to persuade the readers. Always start with an attractive introduction, give a good structure to the body, and finally end it with your recommendation. That should be the final say when it comes to recommending a book. Today, reading is an important aspect of writing. I have already discussed the advantages of reading, but in India, I have noticed that most people read general books. Of course, it is good, but we also need to have a broad way of reading different kinds of genres. We must not be limited to a certain category of books that we are reading. See, in olden days or even in our families, we can see that somebody or the other reads a book. See, reading a book is not an effort or a work, but reading is a way of life. It enhances our imagination. We can incorporate different ideas and we can implement it in our lives. In this session, you have talked about first the advantages of reading a book. Then you have looked at the parts of a book. And then genre. Genre is any category of writing that is fiction or non-fiction. And you have looked at the components of the book. And then you have looked at the literary devices that are used in the book, which can be of some use in your review. And then you have seen what information does a book review provide. And then you have also looked at what is the structure of a book review. How do you write a book review? What structure do you follow? There is no fixed structure, but there is a pattern. And then you have seen the example of a structure of a book review, an example of Khaled Hosseini's The Kite Runner. And then you have looked at why is a book review important today, in today's world of internet connectivity, in terms of technology, in terms of mobile network. And then finally, you have seen some do's and don'ts that you need to remember while writing a book review. I hope you found this session to be interesting and useful to you. Thank you very much.